So the Steelers' biggest offseason acquisition by far was trading for DK Metcalf. And now you pair him up with George Pickens. It looks like Pickens isn't going to go anywhere. There were speculations about him possibly being traded, but with them running it with these two for a year, you have to expect that not only are you going to have one of the best receiving cores Aaron Rodgers will be throwing to, but probably the biggest bullies in the NFL. I can't think of any defense that wants to line up against the two most physically imposing receivers in the league. You got DK Metcalf, who's like the new generation of Terrell Owens, and then you got George Pickens, who can just catch everything you throw his way. What are your expectations for how good the Pickens DK Metcalf receiver duo will be this upcoming season?
Honestly, I haven't really had any expectations for them. It's more so intrigue. How is that going to work? Because with last season, you had George Pickens on one side. You had the high safety shading to his side of the field, so he didn't get as many touches as you would like him to. And on the other side, you had a platoon of Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, Scotty Miller, and every now and then they throw in Mike Williams in there, the 5 snaps he got all year. Um, so yeah, the receiving core was limited last year. Now with this year, which side of the field is your safety going to shade to? Is he going to shade to the side of the field with DK on it? Oh, well, then I'll just throw the ball to George Pickens and he'll make a play. Oh, the safety's going to shade to Pickens' side? Oh, I'll just throw the ball to DK and let him make a play and throw someone to the ground. So I'm intrigued to see what those two guys can do this year. As much smack as I talk on George Pickens, I gotta I gotta watch my mouth when it comes to him. But I'd be damned if I didn't say he's a good catcher of the football. I'd love to see what he can do when he's not the only guy in town. When did he have his biggest year? It's when Deontay Johnson was here. That's when he made the most plays. You know, so when George Pickens gets kind of like Juju, when George Pickens gets to be a 2, I'd like to see him eat. So we'll see what happens there. It just really depends who's going to be throwing him the football.
And it's really interesting because you have two of, or potentially three of the biggest personalities in the NFL on one offense. You got Aaron, you got DK. We know how he can get at times. More so not going at it with the team, but getting into it with the opposing defenses. And same thing with George Pickens. Hell, if we see anybody on the Browns talking smack this year, they damn near just might get jumped by both Metcalf and George Pickens. I don't think any opposing defense, it'll be smart for them to talk shit to any of these guys. Hell, they keep asking the question, one man versus 100 gorillas. Give me George Pickens versus DK Metcalf against 100 gorillas, and I like them to win that matchup a million times out of 100.
Shoot, DK might take that on his own. George Pickens he's gonna go write some cease and desist letters to me on his off time. But, oh my gosh. But no, yeah, I'm excited to see those two physically imposing guys, especially DK. Like George is tall, DK is big.
Big,
Pause.
yeah, he's like a linebacker playing receiver. It's like
Yeah.
you feel me? And then with the speed that he has after the catch, and then imagine if we can get a healthy Roman Wilson. Because he can play. I was pretty high on him, although he wasn't my preferred receiver that I wanted us to draft. Like he is pretty smooth, and he does look like he could be a good complementary piece. Calvin Austin, with his limitations with the size, he's just more so a big play deep threat. With Roman Wilson, you get a lot more out of him, and you pair that up alongside the Pat Fryermuth. So in some capacity, getting DK Metcalf somewhat has completed the Steelers' offense, at least from a skill position standpoint. Outside weapons shouldn't be the question.
Honestly, I'm just hoping Broderick Jones figures it out on the left side of because he's moving to the left side of the line this year. And if he doesn't, he's got to figure it out real quick. Because if he doesn't, it's not going to matter if George Pickens and DK Metcalf can run 1,000,000 yards downfield if Aaron Rodgers is on his back, and Aaron Rodgers coming off of an Achilles injury and he's going to be 42 years old. He's not escaping that pocket anytime soon.
Yeah.
Um, So if you're gonna have a bad offensive line, and by the way, you're hoping Troy Fautanu comes back and stays healthy. Plus, we've only seen one game of him. Granted, it was a good game, but it's one game against the Broncos or Chargers. I forget who it was. You got to hope the offensive line can give you some kind of protection, because if they can't, what's going to happen? Well, you don't have time for George and DK to run deeper developing routes. You got to hit him on a shallow crosses or something quick to get the ball out to him. And I feel like this offense will be at its best when you're throwing deep balls to those two guys. But if you're not, get the ball out of your hands as quickly as you can and hope they make a play. And I think we saw how well that worked out in 2020.
Now
and 2021. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you good. You can finish.
No, yeah, 2020, 2021, 2022. It was all about getting the ball out as quickly as you can. And it limited the offense because you didn't have to guard the Steelers deep. Just guard the short end of the field. But I just hope the line plays well. That's what I'm most interested in